Good morning, everybody. My name is Christy. Welcome to my channel, Christy's Musings. Today, I was going to talk to you about Frankenstein. The title of this video today is Frankenstein, Prophecy for Jews, and the Resurrected Jewish State. I'm going to start out reading from the book of Jeremiah, verses 31 through 33. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break. In other words, they broke it. Although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. Okay, that's a foreshadowing of Romans chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. For when the Gentiles which have not the law do by nature the things contained in the law, these, having not the law, are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness, and their thoughts the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another. In the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ according to my gospel. You know, I've mentioned several times on my channel that I always warn my children when they're fighting monsters not to become one. And in a way, that's kind of how you can view this. Okay, but y'all bear with me. I was listening to my pastor yesterday, and as he was reading those verses, this thought came to my mind. And so I had to put my pastor on pause, and I started researching, and I felt like God had just put something in my heart. And so y'all bear with me. My notes, they're like all over the place. So y'all bear with me. I'm going to try to share with y'all what I discovered and what was laid on my heart. Okay, so Mary Shelley, when she was writing the book Frankenstein, it's believed that she had the Jewish myth of the golem, Golem, on her mind. And it says a golem is an anthropomorphic being in Jewish folklore which is created entirely from inanimate matter, usually clay or mud. The tales of the golem trace back to the Talmud. In the book, Frankenstein was created by a scientist who lost control of his creation, an artificial being, and it became a destructible force. So Frankenstein, when Mary Shelley wrote the book, the state of Israel had not been created for sure, but there were talks of there one day being a state, and Mary Shelley had to be aware of all this, and she had to be aware that there were other Jewish people that were opposed to this notion of the Jews having a state, because some believe that that is very wrong, that Jewish people are not to have a state. Um, so as she wrote this book, Frankenstein is an example of hostility toward Israel in that it should not assume flesh and blood. The people in the book, or in the story of Frankenstein, who saw Frankenstein were afraid and knew that Frankenstein was something created against the will of God. They were uncomfortable with Frankenstein in this abominable state. And again, this is an example of anti Zionist Jews and how they warned that God was against the resurrection of the state of Israel. In the book, Frankenstein was left to wander in solitude, never finding a place to rest. There is no place at the time of this writing that she wrote this book. There was no place for Jews in the world. They did not have a nation. The name Frankenstein is a huge tip-off to what Shelley was thinking about. On my channel, I've talked to you about Sabbatai Zevi and Jacob Frank. Jacob Frank is the one that started this cult and claimed to be, and he claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. He believed that he was the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi. Frank developed a huge following, and this is told about in the book by Robert Sefer, 1666, Redemption Through Sin. In 1666, a man by the name of Sabbatai Zevi declared himself to be the Messiah. Followers of his heretical cult believed that sin is holy and should be practiced for its own sake. Sabbateans and their successors, the Frankists, have indulged in religious orgies. Sorry about that. My dog decided he wanted to go outside. Sabbateans and their successors, the Frankists, have indulged in religious orgies, ritual sacrifice, incest, adultery, and for 350 years. Using secret societies such as Masons, this diabolical sect has infiltrated into the highest echelons of political power. They covertly rule as the unelected hidden hand shaping history behind a veil of conspiracy. And he asks, what is their secret global agenda? And as I pointed out, this at the writing of this book, like I said, there must have been a lot of discussion about creating a new state for Israel. But because, at the time she wrote it, there wouldn't have been one. But she had to have believed that it was wrong. Or maybe she was just writing about the idea of it being wrong. But other people, beside myself, have the idea that the book Frankenstein is a picture of Israel. And they say the West, or the colonialist, sinned against the natural order by creating Israel. For natural order to be restored, Israel has to be swept away, and those who created it have a right, if not a duty, to rectify their wrong. Just as ghosts are not supposed to assume the form of a people, the powers that brought them to life, namely the United Nations, have a sacred trust to undo their monster. Again, that's goes back to what I said at the beginning. When you're fighting monsters, be careful not to become one. And it's my personal opinion, my belief that the state of Israel has become a monster to the rest of the world, and it needs to be dealt with. Love you all, and sorry if I offended you. Sorry, not sorry, but those are my thoughts for today. I understand that the message that I brought forward today will not be received by a lot of people. And so that will weigh heavily on my heart. But as I've said from the beginning, when God lays something on my heart, my duty is to God, not people. But I wanted to end by saying, Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. What's happening over in Israel is not of God, not for God, and it certainly is not showing love to the world. Love y'all, and hope you'll come back for more next week. I do videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, God willing.